on the envelope that's on the top of books.
Okay.
Find your name in which one? Okay, good.
I have one more thing for you guys. Your group.
Cool.
And go ahead and pass out to each person a sticky note and then a deck of one of the cards. Thank you.
Oh, you're here today. I didn't see you.
In here, would you pass each person? Yeah. Would you pass to each person a sticky note and one of the cards? Would you guys roll out the cards and the sticky notes? Come on in, find your name on the envelope.
Am I here?
You can sit wherever your name is. So find your name on the envelope. Find your name. If you're at your table, maybe look at who else is in your group and just encourage them over if you know who that is. You can give everybody one of those. And you can give everybody a sticky note. So just turn it over. And then
Johnny, Joey.
yeah, yep, I like how you're calling people over. That's a big help. Okay, you see who you're missing? Let them know as they walk in. Still looking? Okay. Okay, everybody gets one of those. Did everyone get the handout? I think every group got it.
I need to do Who's his name? That's good, like
Everyone can take one of those and just stick it underneath. The rest of them. So these two tables already have it. Thank you. Does anyone have their release form that they're ready to hand in? So I can go ahead and take that. If not, I'll keep a little folder here for Ms. Pettit. Remember that because you're being filmed today, you do need to return the permission form with your signature and your parent's signature so that I can use it. Okay? All right. So I'm going to leave that here. Okay, so good morning. I want to first introduce what our goals are for the day. So I actually put it on a piece of paper. So you have a sheet that's called primary versus secondary resources. If you flip it over to the back, you'll see what our goals are. Okay, you have both an NSL objective and a literacy objective. So in NSL, you're trying to give an example of each role of the president. So that's the goal by the end of the period. And I think that that's something that I have every faith you'll be able to do because you've been working on that for a couple of days. And then the second goal for literacy, to be able to give me an example of a primary resource. So we're going to talk a little bit about primary versus secondary resources today. Okay. In terms of agenda, I know as a student, I always like to know, okay, what are we doing, what's next until the end of the period. So I kind of gave you a sense of kind of our major things I want to hit on today. Okay. In terms of calling on you, you have a deck of cards and I have a deck of cards. Okay, you have a card in a deck. And you'll take a look at the handwritten number on one of the dots, okay, the candy. And if I call that number, then you're the one in charge of responding, okay? So what I'll do is I'll put a question out to everybody, and then I'll call a number, okay? So you'll have some time to think about it. You won't be put on the spot, okay? All right. Now, we want to get into the very beginning with an example of what we're going to be doing today, okay? You have been looking at pictures. So you've been looking at some primary resources, and you've been figuring out what role of the president they fit. Today we're going to be using books. This is going to be a video. You'll have some video options. You're going to use any other paper printouts that are on your table. You're going to ultimately be trying to figure out some examples of roles of the president based on your topic. So the topics around the room, we have, I think, Hurricane Katrina, civil rights, focusing in on the Civil Rights Act of '64 and Voting Rights Act of '65. We have, what are you guys? Day-to-day life, because there are some things the president does that didn't neatly fit into the other categories. We have immigration. We have Japanese internment, so again, narrowing down World War II. And then you guys have September 11th and kind of looking at national security. Okay? So you're really kind of thinking about your topic. You're going to be using all of your resources, and you're going to be figuring out, is it a primary or secondary source, and what role of the president could I use this for? I want to model that with showing you this video. I chose this video because I have a personal connection to it. This is the president making his Memorial Day speech last year. And my sister married a person who, her last name is now Looney, so when you hear him say the name, you'll know who she's related to. So she is related to a person who died in the Iraq War, okay? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to be playing this video, and I want you to kind of go through with me and figure out what role do you think that the president is using, and even just kind of a precursor, do you think primary or secondary? I know we haven't defined those terms yet, but kind of be thinking about that just in case I ask. Okay? All right.
The son of a Marine, Travis aspired to follow in his father's footsteps and was accepted by the U.S. Naval Academy. His roommate at the academy was Brendan Looney, a star athlete and born leader from a military family just like Travis. The two quickly became best friends, like brothers, Brendan said. After graduation, they deployed. Travis to Iraq and Brendan to Korea. On April 29, 2007, while fighting to rescue his fellow Marines from danger, Travis was killed by a sniper. Brendan did what he had to do. He kept going. He poured himself into his SEAL training and dedicated it to the friend that he missed. He married the woman he loved. In his tour in Korea behind him, he deployed to Afghanistan. On September 21st of last year, Brendan gave his own life, along with 8 others, in a helicopter crash. Heartbroken, yet filled with pride. Manions and the Loonies knew only one way to honor their son's friendship. They moved Travis from his cemetery in Pennsylvania and buried them side by side here at Arlington. Warriors for Freedom reads the epitaph written by Travis' father. Brothers forever. The friendship between First Lieutenant Travis Manion and Lieutenant Brendan Looney reflects the meaning of Memorial Day. Brotherhood, sacrifice, love of country. It is my fervent prayer that we may honor the memory of the fallen by living out those ideals every day of our lives, in the military and beyond. May God bless the souls of the venerable warriors we've lost, and the country for which they died.
So a pretty amazing story that both of these guys were close friends can be. Okay, that on his first date with his wife, he actually brought his best friend. It was like they were inseparable. And so although they didn't die in the same war at the same time, they actually moved the one body and buried them next to each other in Arlington Cemetery. And so it was just a really powerful example. And so the president was aware of it and made the Memorial Day speech. So then you kind of go in and, I find that a lot of times on the test, in looking at some of those questions that you guys are asked in NSL, that a lot of times I feel like you can almost argue that the president has more than one role he's doing at the same time. And occasionally, and often I think that's true. I mean, the president is multitasking. He is doing things that are making speeches on behalf of his party, but may also be impacting people in other countries. So there are going to be times where these roles overlap. And so you can see my thought process up there. So I originally put Iraq, Korea, and actually ultimately Afghanistan. So the president was acting as commander-in-chief, right? But what is this example really focusing on? And the example is actually him making a speech on Memorial Day. It is not him signing the declaration of war. It is not him actually doing anything with the military, but it is making a speech. So in that case, you have to really think like the teacher on the tests, okay? You have to think like whoever the test creator is. And what you want to do is you want to figure out what are they trying to get me to say? Which one can I infer is the most logical role of the president? So in this case, think about it, and I'm going to call on somebody using your numbers. Which one do you think it is? Do you think this is a better example of head of state or commander-in-chief? Okay, take a minute to think about that. Is this a better example of commander-in-chief or head of state? Okay. All right. Number 20. Who's 20? Raise your hand so I can see who's 20. Adjoa, what do you think?
Head of state.
Head of state. Why do you think that? You're right.
It's like he's like it's not exactly an award, but he's like I don't know how to say it. Like he's recognizing and he's giving them recognition for their show.
Good. Yeah, it's more ceremonial than it is actually like policy making or